who is the real imposter? Now, there's been a lot of chatter about imposter syndrome. Our culture so easily comes up with new individualized definitions of words and concepts to retrofit their thinking. So, let's do this proper, shall we? Now, let's make sure we understand imposter is defined as. It's a person who pretends to be someone else in order to deceive others. And we know what syndrome is. Like, a syndrome is just a group of symptoms that consistently happen together. For instance, we've all heard of irritable bowel syndrome, and we know there are different things that are happening to make that so. So now let's put it all together. So we're saying that imposter syndrome is a person pretending, which is intentional, to be something they are not, so as to deceive, also intentional for gain, other people. What? That can't be what we're confessing to ourselves. So let's look at it in the manner of what's actually happening. Let's just say we've adopted a belief of a fake identity, an identity that we are not who we are, that somehow we are riddled with tags of I can't, or some negative version of that, or I always, or some negative self-reflection, or some ringing negative self-talk imprinted on us that may be a result of a direct negative experience or something that we've witnessed. Or maybe it was even negativity that was modeled to us, so much so that it becomes a lie to truth. Now, you know real examples of stuff that's actually happening, called evidence, that actually opposes. Now, that doesn't mean that we nail it at life 100% of the time, but also not losing at life at 100% of the time either. I mean, let's be real. For example, it's kind of like this plant, right? It's going on here now. I confess that I'm not a good plant parent. I'm often derelict in my duties in watering, but I digress. So now, some plant guru may say, this plant is in bad shape. Well, that's one way to look at it. But I would say there are some parts of this plant that may be in bad shape. But there are some parts of this plant that are actually thriving. Evidence. The leaves are green, supple, the vine feels strong, etc. Now, as you know, I'm not a plant expert, far from it, but I do know that it has continued to grow despite my poor plant parenting. It survived a move from another office space, decrease in sunlight, and yet it still is here. So what does this have to do with being an imposter or imposter syndrome? Well, if I talked to the plant and I said, well, it was good while it lasted, it's probably going to die. These kind of plants don't do well with change or in office spaces, or some version of negativity, it would only be a matter of time before those words, along with my continued poor plant parenting, that this plant would no longer thrive. Ultimately, the imposter is the voice in our thoughts that tell us that the negativity about ourselves as though our existence has to reflect some perfectionism. That's a purple unicorn. It doesn't exist, except for maybe in the recesses of our heads, convincing us of the fake ID. In the immortal words of Marianne Williamson, who am I to be brilliant or gorgeous, talented or fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. As we are liberated from our own fears, our existence automatically liberates other people. Now, in the next installment, I want to pick back up on expanding our understanding that the stuck emotions of hidden trauma that actually created the fake ID. I'm excited to do that part. This is your microdosing mental health moment. Have a most amazing day.